Imagine not being able to button your shirt, or fearing you might fall every time you take a shower. For many seniors, these aren't occasional challenges. They're daily battles. Struggling with dressing and bathing isn't just frustrating, it can be frightening, humiliating, and deeply isolating. But few talk about it. Today, we will. There's a quiet truth most people don't talk about until it happens to them or someone they love. The moment when putting on socks feels like a chore, when reaching behind your back to zip up a dress becomes impossible, when stepping into a bathtub isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. For older adults, basic activities of daily living, like getting dressed or taking a bath, can slowly turn into overwhelming obstacles. Arthritis makes it painful to raise your arms. A stroke leaves you unable to lift a leg. Fear of falling becomes so great you skip showers altogether. These aren't just physical tasks. They're moments that touch on safety, privacy, independence, and self-worth. And when they're lost, even partially, the emotional impact can be just as heavy as the physical one. Frustration, embarrassment, the quiet grief of needing help with something you once did without thinking. In this episode of Elderly Truths, we'll explore what it really feels like to struggle with dressing and bathing, from personal stories to the underlying causes. And most importantly, how to make these moments safer, easier, and more dignified. Because behind every small struggle is a human story worth hearing. For most of our lives, getting dressed and taking a shower are just part of the routine. We don't think about the steps involved, the muscles required, or the balance it takes to stay steady on one foot. But with age, these once simple tasks begin to unravel, and often in ways that feel unexpected and frustrating. It starts with the body. Arthritis, one of the most common chronic conditions among older adults, can make something as basic as buttoning a shirt feel like a painful puzzle. Swollen fingers don't move like they used to. Joints ache with every bend. And what used to take 5 minutes can suddenly feel like a 30-minute ordeal. Then there's muscle weakness, which creeps in slowly. You might not notice it at first, but then one day, lifting a leg to put on pants becomes a balancing act, or raising your arms to shampoo your hair leaves you winded. Stroke recovery, Parkinson's disease, and other neurological conditions can rob the body of coordination or strength on just one side, turning symmetrical movements, like tying shoes or stepping into a tub, into a major challenge. But it's not just about strength, it's about staying upright. As balance begins to decline with age, the fear of falling starts to loom large. Bathrooms, in particular, become high-risk areas. Smooth tile floors, slippery bathtubs, and awkward movements like bending or twisting can make a routine shower feel like walking a tightrope. Many older adults begin skipping showers, not because they want to, but because they're afraid. And that fear is valid. A fall in the bathroom can lead to devastating injuries, hospital stays, and a permanent loss of independence. Cognitive decline adds another layer. For those living with Alzheimer's, dementia, or mild cognitive impairment, the issue isn't just physical, it's mental. They may forget the sequence of dressing, what goes on first, how to use a zipper, or whether they've already bathed today. Some may feel confused or overwhelmed by the sensory experience of bathing, the sound of running water, the feel of cold air, the sudden rush of warmth. Others may become anxious or resistant, not understanding why someone is helping them undress or trying to guide them into the shower. For caregivers, these moments can be emotionally heavy, especially when the person they love becomes frustrated, scared, or withdrawn. Then there's fatigue, a quiet but powerful factor. Chronic conditions like heart disease, COPD, or diabetes can drain energy so quickly that even small tasks become exhausting. After getting dressed, some seniors feel like they've already run a marathon. When your body is tired before the day even begins, the idea of taking a shower can feel not just difficult, but impossible. These changes don't happen overnight. But when they do, they leave many older adults feeling powerless in their own homes and even in their own skin. What once felt automatic now takes planning. What once was private may now require help. And that shift, from independence to dependence, is often filled with silent grief. Understanding why these challenges happen is the first step, because when we stop assuming that dressing and bathing are easy, we open the door to empathy, solutions, and support, and we begin to reclaim dignity, not just in the big moments, but in the quiet, everyday ones too. What we often miss, what we don't talk about enough, is the emotional weight that comes with struggling to do something as simple and personal as putting on your own clothes or taking a shower. It's not just about what the body can't do, it's about what that loss represents. When a senior starts needing help with dressing or bathing, there's often a deep, unspoken sense of embarrassment. Being seen without clothes, having someone else wash your back, dry your hair, help you into socks. These are vulnerable moments tied to privacy, dignity, and autonomy. And when they're shared, not by choice, but by necessity, it can leave someone feeling exposed in more ways than one. For many older adults, this leads to a quiet sense of shame, not because they've done anything wrong, but because they can feel their independence slipping. Asking for help becomes harder, accepting it even more so. The phrase, "I don't want to be a burden," is spoken often, and behind it sits a very real fear that losing independence also means losing value. Even when help comes from loving family or skilled caregivers, that fear remains. It's the fear of being pitied, of being handled, of being a checklist in someone else's day. And for those who once prided themselves on doing everything for themselves and others, it can feel like a reversal. That's difficult to reconcile. There's also a form of grief that creeps in, not always loudly, but quietly, like a shadow that stays with you. It's the grief of no longer being able to do the things you once did without a second thought. The loss of spontaneity, the loss of routine, and the unsettling feeling that your world has grown smaller because of it. Over time, these emotions chip away at self-esteem. Someone who used to dress up every morning, who loved their grooming rituals, who felt proud in their appearance, may begin to withdraw. They might stop trying, stop going out, stop caring. Not because they're lazy or giving up, but because they feel defeated. This withdrawal doesn't just affect daily routines, it affects mental health. Struggles with dressing and bathing are closely linked to increased rates of depression and anxiety in older adults. When someone feels like they've lost control of the most intimate parts of their life, that loss can echo into everything else: relationships, appetite, motivation, and hope. And yet, because these emotions are often hidden behind polite smiles or quiet, "I'm fine" responses, they can be easy to overlook. That's why listening matters. So does noticing. When someone starts skipping showers, when they begin wearing the same clothes day after day, when they avoid getting dressed at all, these aren't just signs of physical limitation. They may be signs of emotional overwhelm. What's important to remember is this: needing help doesn't mean losing dignity. But without empathy, without patience, without understanding, that's exactly how it can feel. When we see the emotional side of these struggles, we don't just provide better care, we offer something just as vital: reassurance. That their worth hasn't changed, that their voice still matters, and that even in the hardest, most vulnerable moments, they are still deeply human and never alone. Behind every statistic, every explanation, every fact, there's a person, someone living these moments, often quietly, someone for whom bathing or dressing has become more than a task. It's a test, a daily reminder of what's changed, and yet also a source of strength. Take Mrs. Lorraine, 84, a retired school librarian. She lives alone now ever since her husband passed a few years ago. Her hands, once nimble with paperbacks and card catalogs, now struggle with something as simple as zippers and buttons. "It's the little things that surprise you," she told me. "Like trying to hook a bra. I used to do it without even thinking. Now, I sit on the edge of the bed and sometimes I cry." She paused, not because of the pain, but because I have to ask someone to help me put it on. And that never used to be the case. Loren said the hardest part wasn't asking. It was feeling like she lost something she couldn't name. It's not just about being dressed, it's about feeling ready to face the day. It's about not wanting to be seen as someone who's falling apart. Then there's James, 78, who had a stroke 2 years ago. It affected the left side of his body, making it hard to move his arm and leg. His wife helps him bathe now, which he's grateful for, but admits it hasn't been easy. "I hated it at first," he said. "I didn't want her to see me like that, needing help just to wash my back or step into the tub." He looked away for a second. You think you're supposed to be the strong one, the provider. Then one morning you're holding the grab bar for dear life, praying you don't slip. But James also said something else, something that stuck with me. It's not about being clean, it's about feeling human again. When I get out of the shower and I'm dried off and dressed, I feel like myself, like I'm still here, still me. These stories, quiet, brave, and honest, remind us that the struggle isn't weakness, it's resilience. It's finding dignity in the most private, difficult moments. It's holding on to identity, even as the body changes. Not every senior will talk openly about these experiences. Many keep it private out of pride, embarrassment, or fear of being a burden. But when they do speak, when they let us in, it's clear that what's at stake isn't just mobility or safety. It's the sense of agency, of being seen, of waking up and knowing that despite the obstacles, you still get to decide how the day begins. These are not just stories about struggle. They are stories about persistence and the quiet power it takes to keep showing up for yourself. One shirt, one shower, one small victory at a time. When it comes to dressing and bathing, many seniors don't just need help, they need to feel respected in the process. And that's something families and caregivers often overlook, not because they don't care, but because they're focused on getting it done safely, efficiently, and without discomfort. But what's quick for you may feel overwhelming for them. Rushing someone through getting dressed or hurrying them into the shower can create a sense of helplessness, or worse, humiliation. For an older adult already facing physical or emotional challenges, it can feel like losing one more piece of control. That's why the pace matters. Every person is different. Some may want to try first and only ask for help when they need it. Others may need assistance but still want to be involved. Let them set the rhythm. When possible, offer choices. Would you like to wear the blue sweater or the cardigan today? Would you prefer a shower now or after breakfast? These aren't just questions. They're ways of saying, I still see you as the decision maker in your own life. And dignity? It's everything. How you help matters just as much as what you help with. Be mindful of tone, body language, and words. Don't talk down, don't make it clinical, and never assume. Always ask for permission before removing clothing or assisting with intimate tasks. A simple, "May I help you with your sleeve?" can go a long way in making someone feel seen rather than handled. Avoid treating elders like children. They're not. They're adults who've lived full lives who now happen to need assistance in a vulnerable area. Help should feel empowering, not infantilizing. Communication and compassion are your greatest tools. Ask what makes them uncomfortable. Learn their routines. Listen for unspoken fears. Sometimes what sounds like resistance is actually anxiety. A cold bathroom, the fear of slipping, not wanting to be naked in front of someone, even someone they trust. The more we listen, the more we understand that it's not just about the task. It's about preserving dignity, autonomy, and emotional well-being. It's also important to recognize the signs that help is needed, especially when a loved one may not speak up. Body odor, wearing the same clothes for days, stains on garments, or matted hair may point to someone skipping showers or struggling to dress. Bruising, especially on arms, hips, or shins, might suggest falls while trying to manage alone. If you notice these signs, don't assume laziness or neglect. See them for what they are, signals that support is needed and that it should be offered gently, without judgment. And when help is offered in a way that honors the person, not just the task, something changes. Instead of feeling like a burden, the person begins to feel safe, supported, still themselves. Being a caregiver, whether you're a professional or a family member, isn't just about meeting physical needs. It's about protecting identity, preserving trust, and reminding the person you're helping that their dignity didn't disappear the moment they needed assistance. Sometimes the most important thing you can give isn't your hands, it's your patience, your kindness, and your willingness to show up with heart, not just with help. When bathing or dressing becomes difficult, many people feel like their only option is to give up doing it themselves. But that doesn't have to be the case. The right tools, combined with a little support, can make a world of difference, not just in safety, but in restoring confidence and independence. Let's start with the bathroom. It's one of the most dangerous places in the home for older adults, especially those dealing with balance issues or joint pain. But small changes go a long way. Grab bars installed near the toilet and inside the shower can provide steady support where it's needed most. No more reaching for towel racks or wall corners that were never meant to hold weight. Walk-in tubs or low-threshold showers can also reduce the risk of tripping or falling. Add a non-slip mat inside and outside the shower, and suddenly that once slippery space becomes more secure. And for those who feel unsteady standing during a shower chair with a handheld shower head can turn what felt like an exhausting chore into a manageable routine. Then there's dressing. Buttons, zippers, tight shoes, these all become barriers when fingers are stiff or balance is limited. That's where adaptive clothing comes in. Today, there are stylish, easy-to-wear options with Velcro closures, magnetic buttons, side-stepping pants, and easy-on shoes with no laces to tie. These changes aren't just functional, they're freeing. They return control to the person wearing them. There are also inexpensive tools that make a huge impact. A long-handled sponge helps someone clean their back or feet without twisting. A sock aid lets you put on socks without bending. A dressing stick can help pull up pants, guide sleeves, or zip jackets. These may seem like simple items, but for someone who's struggling, they can mean the difference between needing help and doing it solo. And while equipment is important, human support matters just as much. That's where occupational therapy can be life-changing. An occupational therapist can evaluate someone's specific needs and recommend customized solutions, whether it's adjusting routines, practicing safer techniques, or introducing new tools. They don't just treat the task, they empower the person behind it. There are also in-home care options for those who need a little more hands-on support. Some caregivers specialize in personal care assistance, helping with bathing, dressing, grooming, and hygiene while respecting the person's pace, preferences, and privacy. And just like tools, these services can be tailored. Some people may only need help a few times a week. Others may benefit from short daily visits. The point is, there's no one-size-fits-all approach, and there doesn't need to be. Because when we talk about dressing and bathing, we're not just talking about hygiene, we're talking about identity, independence, and dignity. And whether it's a grab bar, a Velcro shoe, or a kind, patient hand, every tool, every adjustment, every act of support sends the same message: you are still capable. You still matter. And you deserve to feel safe in your own body and in your own home. Sometimes it's not the biggest changes that have the biggest impact. It's the small things, done with care, that give someone their strength back. One shower, one sleeve, one step at a time. Struggling with the basics doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. There is no shame in needing help, no loss of dignity in asking for support. Because the truth is, every one of us at some point in life will need someone else's hand. Whether it's to stand, to dress, to bathe, or simply to feel safe in our own skin again. Aging isn't failure. It's a process, a natural unfolding of life. And while our bodies may change, slow down, or surprise us with new limitations, our worth doesn't. Our stories don't. Our identity doesn't vanish just because we can't zip a jacket or step into a tub alone. We live in a world that often tells us independence means doing everything ourselves. But that's not where true dignity lies. Dignity comes from being seen for who we are, not just what we can do. It comes from being supported in ways that honor our choices, our pace, and our preferences. And it comes from being respected at every stage of life, not just when we're strong. For the older adult who's frustrated by buttons or fearful in the shower, know this: you are not alone. Your experience is real, and there are tools, people, and practices that can help not to take over, but to lift you up. For caregivers, family members, and loved ones, never underestimate the power of patience, of slowing down, of asking instead of assuming. Because sometimes the smallest gestures, like offering a choice or waiting an extra moment, are what restore dignity the most. There will always be hard days, days when the task seems too great or the emotions too raw. But there is strength in continuing, and there is grace in receiving help with courage and pride. So whether you're the one giving care or receiving it, remember this: dignity doesn't come from doing everything alone. It comes from knowing that your humanity is intact, even when your hands aren't steady. It comes from trusting that needing help doesn't erase your independence. And it comes from being surrounded by people who see you not as a burden, but as a whole person, worthy of compassion, support, and respect. You are still you, and you always will be. If this video spoke to your experience or to someone you love, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your family, your caregivers, your community. Sometimes just starting the conversation can open the door to real change. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Elderly Truths, where we talk honestly about aging, support one another through the hard stuff, and remind every older adult that their voice still matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for continuing with courage through every stage of life. You are not alone, and your truth is worth hearing.